Well, lawmakers are preparing for the 2022 session. Oklahoma's interim studies are ending, and one thing that lawmakers have been focusing on is making the state safer for children. The Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy tracked almost 50 studies. Joining us now is their CEO, Joe Dorman. Joe, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So 50 studies, that's a lot. Give us some insight into what lawmakers are looking at here.
That's right. The interim study process is for lawmakers to look at different ideas that might come up in the legislative session. They can propose ideas that they might want to pursue with bills in the next year, or possibly review ideas that might have seen some success to see if that's something they should expand. OICA was busy tracking nearly 50 studies that dealt with children's issues this year.
And so what are some of the key takeaways that were found?
So in this most recent study that was done by Senator Kay Floyd looking at youth deaths, the Child Death Review Board, a state agency charged with looking into the deaths of children in Oklahoma, found that there were 3,219 deaths over a 10-year period from 2006 to 2016. And unfortunately, most of those were preventable. If the right precautions were taken, those children probably would not have died.
Talk a little bit more about that. I did see that most of these child deaths described as accidents. How can they be prevented? What do we need to know?
And that's one of the things that the people in these communities look at. They don't like to use the word accident because accident conveys that it was something that it was out of your control. Most of the things that we saw in this were in control. Something such as wearing seatbelts in cars. Right now, Oklahoma has the youngest age in the nation for a requirement for wearing a seatbelt. It goes up to 8 years old with Oklahomans. Most states have up to 12 years old as a requirement. Obviously, we'd like to see 0 to 18 as well as the adults wear seatbelts, but certainly the children. Right now, it's state law that adults have to wear the seatbelts, but not children, those ages 9 to 17. Other things are easily doable for families, such as sufficient fencing around swimming pools, making sure that babies sleep in a crib with a hard surface with something that will not cause sudden infant death syndrome or asphyxiation. There are just simple things that you just need to do that are common sense that could help protect these young lives.
Yeah, just being aware, very important. Can you give us some insight into how Oklahoma compares to other states when it comes to deaths among children?
We are not doing well. Unfortunately, we have more deaths than most other states. And as I said, these are just things that are easily preventable, things that families can do just to take precautions. We've got to do a much better job as far as protecting our kids. One of the projects that we do is we partner with the National Shooting Sports Foundation to offer free trigger locks for individuals so they can keep their guns safe at home. Trigger lock is a very easy mechanism to use that will make it impossible to fire your firearm. And when you have kids in the house, especially if you're going to keep the gun loaded, you certainly need to have that trigger lock in place.
As you tracked these studies, was there any piece of information that really surprised you, that really stuck out to you?
Really just the number of deaths, that 3,219 deaths, and the fact that most of them were ruled something that would be an easy thing to have done to protect that child, to prevent that death. It's really scary how many accidents happen and avoidable deaths that we could do a better job at. And it's not all policy. A lot of it's personal responsibility with the families, but there are some things that could be changed with policy.
So as lawmakers worked on these studies and we're approaching the 2022 session, what happens next? Kind of break down what they do with this information.
So say Senator Floyd did this study looking at childhood deaths. She could go through and make recommendations on policy. And what OICA does is we take the analysis from this study and our fall forum and offer suggestions to the legislature for bills that would implement policy to better protect these kids. And our fall forum happened 2 weeks ago, and we had some great suggestions for things that would go a long ways to protecting kids in Oklahoma. We will put that together in a document, send it to the lawmakers. Their bill filing deadline for submitting ideas is early December. So we want to get them to the lawmakers as quickly as possible.
Can you give us some insight into any possible policy changes or anything that we could be seeing coming up?
So the seatbelt issue is certainly one that we want to pursue. There's another one that would require a waiver for students in driver's ed classes, the private driver's ed classes, to have to sign. The family would have to sign a waiver to have the child in the back seat of the car. With the swimming issues, we're trying to work with municipalities to understand that every time they get rid of a municipal swimming pool, that's less access to swimming for swimming lessons for kids in urban areas. And so we want to make these recommendations, not just to the state, but also to the local level and other leaders to think about their actions.
And finally, before we go here, where can people go to get some more information about the work that you do, some of these studies that were done, or if they just need help, where can they get some information?
If you want to go back and look at the interim studies, you can go to okhouse.gov or oksenate.gov to their websites. And if you want to learn more about what OIC does and our legislative agenda, you can go to oica.org.
All right, perfect. Joe, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you.